Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I like to make stuff, and if you're not new here, welcome back. Some of you may be familiar with the Duvet cover that my dog ripped an enormous hole in, and the projects that I have made from that Duvet cover. I made a pair of shorts, a dress, some pillow covers, a cover for my ironing board, one or two other things, but I still have a lot of that fabric left over. Now, it's in little pieces now, but here is what I have left. Today I'm going to use some of these bigger scraps to make a cute top. I found this pattern at a thrift store for a couple cents. It is Vogue V8258. I'm going to make version A. This pattern is from 2006. And the reason that I'm going to make view A instead of one of the other ones is, one, it's summertime. I don't want long sleeves. Two, even if I did want long sleeves and an extra tier of fabric, I don't have enough. I already went ahead and cut out all my fabric. I tried to cut out all the pieces so the stripes lay vertically. Unfortunately, I did not have enough pieces to do that. So on my sleeves, the stripes are horizontal. I also didn't have enough fabric to do the long rectangular ruffle piece in 2 equal parts. So I had to do 3 different size pieces that I will piece together to make my ruffle later. Anyway, let's get this whipped together. I have my serger and my sewing machine out. I'll use my serger for any exposed seams and my sewing machine for any enclosed seams and top stitching. Right sides together, sew the back bodice pieces together at the back center seam, and I'm using my serger for this step. Press the seam to one side. Next, right sides together, pin the front bodice pieces to the back piece at the shoulder and side seams. Then serge in place. Then press those seams towards the back of the top. And a quick try on. Here's the ribbon I'm going to use. Next, cut 6 pieces of ribbon to 16 inches. And you'll notice one side is cut at a diagonal and the other is cut straight. Line up the straight edge of the ribbon with the raw edge of the front center at the markings made for the ribbon ties and pin in place. Then I will sew these in place with my sewing machine. Next, right sides together, I'm going to use my serger to sew together the pieces for my bottom ruffle. Press the seams. Now we have one long rectangle. We are going to hem the bottom edge of the ruffle rectangle by folding wrong sides together twice and then sewing in place. Then on the opposite side of the hem, I'm using my longest stitch length to sew 2 parallel rows of gathering stitches, being sure not to use a back stitch at the beginning or end. Then I'm gathering my ruffle from both ends, evenly distributing my gathers until the ruffle is the same length as the bottom edge of the top. Then right sides together, I'm pinning the raw edge of the gathered ruffle to the bottom edge of the top. This is a little bit different from the instructions, but the final result is similar. So I decided to do it this way because this is how I've attached ruffles on other projects in the past, and I was more confident doing it this way. Serge in place. Give a good press, pressing the seam up toward the top of the garment, and then rip out any exposed gathering stitches. Next, I did a row of top stitching above the ruffle seam, top stitching the bodice piece to the seam allowance underneath. Stay stitch the neckline at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then time to bind the neckline. The instructions called for 1/2 inch single fold binding, but I have some double fold in a coordinating color, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm opening the double fold binding and pressing. And then the instructions say to open up one of the folded sides and press it open. Right sides together, pin the open edge of the binding to the neckline. Then sew in place at 3/8 inch seam allowance. Press the binding up and then to the inside of the top, pressing and then pinning the binding to the inside of the neckline. Here's what it looks like from the outside and the inside, and you'll notice I used a ton of pins for this. It says that we're supposed to baste along the bottom edge of the bias tape and then sew across the basting, but I don't have time for that today. So I'm just gonna cross my fingers, send out a wish and a hope and a prayer that I don't screw this up. Worked out pretty good. Next, I'm turning the front center edges wrong sides together twice to form a narrow hem. And this is how I fold the hem over for the ribbon. This was the most tedious part of the whole project because I had to fold the hem, then sew a little bit, then fold again and sew a little more. All right, here we are so far. Put it on, it's just a vest right now. Kind of cute. I probably should have used different ribbon. Yeah, look at this. It's already starting to fray. All right. Fudge. All right, I'm gonna seam rip this narrow hem out, and then I'm gonna take this ribbon off and I'm gonna put a different ribbon on. Here is the ribbon that I'm gonna swap in. This light blue, nice thin satin ribbon. Try this back on. Okay, that's better. That looks cuter. That's better. All right. Now I just have to do the sleeves. So let's get that done. Okay, so we need to do 2 rows of gathering stitches between these notches and this notch. So we'll go 1, 2. Then right sides together, serge the underarm seam. Press the seam to one side. Then hem the bottom of the sleeve by folding wrong sides together twice and pressing in place. Then sewing in place. Next, right sides together, place the sleeve inside the armhole and pin the raw edges together, matching the side seam to the underarm seam and the top dot to the shoulder seam. Pull on the gathering stitches to help fit the sleeve into the armhole opening, then serge in place. Press the sleeve seam, and ta-da, finished top. What do you guys think? Come on up. Oh, I know. I'm actually quite pleased with how this top turned out. Rewind for a second. I keep referring to this as a top. It's actually advertised as a jacket on the back of the pattern. Right here, you'll see Mrs. Jacket. I keep referring to it as a top. So, you know, jacket, top, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other, whatever. But I really like how it turned out. Considering I didn't have a ton of fabric, you know, big pieces of fabric to work with, it turned out great. The pattern matching's a little wonky at the shoulder seams, and you know, I had to go horizontal with the stripes for the sleeves instead of vertical like the rest of the shirt. It's not that big of a federal issue. In fact, I'm kind of feeling it, you know. This adds a little visual interest, I'm gonna say. Definitely happy that the other ribbons didn't work out. Should have gone with these right out the gate. So I'm wearing a white t-shirt under this, and I'm looking forward to, you know, layering other things underneath it and on top of it actually. So I did take a couple minutes and pull out the other items of clothing that I made out of the duvet cover to pair up with this, just to see how they would look. This looks really cute with the shorts that I made. And if you watch that video, you know how I feel about these shorts. They're a little problematic for a specific reason. However, I think that they do make a cute little matching set. The patchwork skirt that I made, this isn't doing anything for my shape. And then the dress that I made, same deal. Not really doing anything for my shape. You know, only one out of 3 I feel looks good together, which, you know, it's not 0. So I'll take that as a win. And the purpose of making this top wasn't necessarily to be able to wear it with anything else. It was just to make the shirt. Anyway, we're getting down to the last small bits of this fabric. I do have a couple ideas of what I might use this stuff for, so you can expect a couple more projects out of this scrap fabric here. If you wanted to check out the other projects that I have made using this fabric, I'll make sure to link those down in the description. And be sure to like and subscribe to see what else I make with this duvet cover. And as always, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!